Guys, it's Ryan from the News Dead World. And yes, you do spell it R-Y-N-E, not Ryan, but Ryan. I'm back today with a review of Wayward Pines, the season 2 premiere, known as Enemy Lines. I'm not reviewing it for the site because I am already reviewing it for a different site. So I thought maybe I could kind of give my own thoughts and opinions on the latest premiere and let y'all know how I felt about it. For those of you that are new to Wayward Pines, it's a show that's executive produced by M. Night Shyamalan, so you can expect a lot of twists and turns. The first season was supposed to be a 10-episode limited series based on a book series trilogy that actually they finished within that first season. So they went through all 3 books within that first season, really flew through it to get through that 10-episode limited series to make sure that what they promised the viewers, which was a limited, no strings attached conclusion to this story, actually was finished by the time that the show ended after its 10 episodes. When the ratings came in and they saw that a lot of people were actually interested in this series, they changed their tune. They decided, hey, ratings are good. We've got some more ideas, so let's bring it back for a second season. That second season does not feature quite a few of the cast members from the first season, including Ethan Burke, played by Matt Dillon, who was the main protagonist of the first season and died at the end of the conclusion in that last episode. So he's not returning, which means that Wayward Pines Season 2 is left with figuring out who their new protagonist is going to be. So that is one of its biggest obstacles. But Enemy Lines does make that pretty clear right from the start. There's a new doctor in town, town being Wayward Pines, this area that's been segmented off from the rest of the population in 4028, protected by a bunch of fences and electrical barriers and all that technology, trying to keep out these things called abbeys or abnormals so that they can't get into the town. In season 1, we saw them invade the town because of some rebellions that were occurring, and Ethan Burke was tasked with stopping them and blowing up the rest of the town in the process. But Wayward Pines has regrouped. They've come up with a new solution to their attempts to save the world from destruction, especially humanity, who has been overrun by these abbeys. And they have been cryogenically freezing people in our present day to bring them back to 4028 so that they will be useful in this new town. In season 1, we saw that there are quite a few different groups of people that they brought in to try to figure out what would be the best scenario for them. So they had a group A, didn't turn out very well. They kind of all ended up killing each other. Group B also didn't do so well. That's the Ethan Burke group. And then now we were on to Group C in Enemy Lines. And the one that's cryogenically thawed out is Dr. Theo Yedlin, played by Jason Patrick, who's our main protagonist for this season, apparently. He's the guy that we're going to be seeing Wayward Pines through, so he's kind of delivering us the narrative. And Enemy Line starts out very similar to the first season of Wayward Pines. We're kind of given this this new person to the town, and he's trying to figure out what's going on when he wakes up in this strange place. So Dr. Yedlin is a prominent doctor. He's also married, but having some marital issues. His wife, Rebecca, seems to want a baby, and he seems a little too busy for that, so he's not really interested in it. And she's having a very difficult time dealing with the fact that they might not be able to have a baby. She's ready to leave him, as it's shown in flashbacks. But Theo Yedlin is not ready to give up yet, and she makes the case that he's always trying to fix things. As a doctor, that's kind of his job. But in this case, it may not be fixable, especially when one person wants a baby and one person doesn't. So we see all that in flashback, kind of given to us at the start and then throughout the remainder of the episode. But the primary focus in Enemy Lines is Yedlin waking up trying to figure out what the hell's going on because he hears a lot of gunshots, a lot of rebels fighting in the streets, and he's kind of given this task of saving Kate, who is a holdover from the previous season, Carla Gugino. He's tasked with saving her from a gunshot wound and fixing her up so that she can help with the rebellion again. The town is now not led by the doctor from the previous season. It's now led by Jason Higgins, who was one of the younger kids that was undergoing their initiation process in school. Now he's kind of taken over. He's the head honcho, the main guy, the big bad in this scenario, and he's fighting to keep everybody safe, keep the Abbeys out, make sure that the town stays whole, carry on Dr. Pilcher's ideas and ideals of having this safe house for humanity, so that no one has to worry about the Abbeys getting in, that they can ensure humanity's survival. On the opposite spectrum, we have Ben Burke, who is the son of Ethan from last season, returning again. He is fighting a rebellion against Jason Higgins. He does not believe in the totalitarian government that Jason is crafting. He doesn't believe in the cameras and all of the phone calls in the night and things that we saw originally in Wayward Pines Season 1. So they're kind of in battle, and we're thrown into the midst of it, especially as Yedlin kind of comes to terms with his new predicament and figuring out what the hell's going on in this town. We do get some of the atmospherics from the first season. A lot of the same sort of throwbacks and vintage items like rotary phones, old soda machines, 50s music, very reminiscent of, say, Fallout 3, Fallout 4. Similar in that regard. So we do get some of that atmospherics. We do get some of the intentional comedy that comes out because of the bizarre nature of most of the townspeople. So Yedlin does experience that, but not in the same way as Ethan Burke did in the first season. Wayward Pines wants to differentiate the two seasons. It doesn't want to play off the show the same way as it was in the first season, which is a good thing. No one needs to see and relive that experience twice. We already saw it once, and there's no reason to return to it. So we do get a little of that in Enemy Lines, but for the most part, Wayward Pines goes a different route. It puts Yedlin right in the middle of two scenarios, and as a doctor who wants to fix things, there's that implication that Yedlin will be the one that tries to bring them both together. Yet in battle, it's really hard to try to find common ground between the two sides. And Jason doesn't seem to want to play ball anyway. He's ready to murder whoever rebels against him just because, to make sure that he's ensuring the survival of humanity. Ben is a little less intense than that. He will side with whatever he thinks is best, and so he gives himself up in this first episode to ensure that his rebels are not murdered in cold blood. The most impressive thing about Enemy Lines is that it manages to capture the same feelings as the first season and go a completely different direction. And for those of you that were tuning in and wondering how can they actually make a second season out of this when they specifically said that it was going to be a limited series, I'm pleasantly surprised to say that this seems like it's heading in the right direction. At first, I did think that Jason Patric was a little bit bland as our lead protagonist, but in hindsight, that seems intentional. All of the townspeople are somewhat aloof, I would say, very odd, and I think that's the dynamic within Wayward Pines, and so I think that Patrick can hold his own as the protagonist. Certainly not in the same way that Matt Dillon did in the first season. He was very much very outspoken with his profession. He needed to be. In this, there's the start of what's going to be a season-long dilemma with Dr. Yedlin, where he's forced to work with both sides because of his abilities and his role as a doctor and provider. He has that feeling that he's going to be able to rekindle the relationship with Rebecca, even though she's basically told him no. And from what he remembers in the previous encounters that he had with her before he was taken and brought to Wayward Pines, um, that was unequivocally a no. She was basically saying, they were done with their relationship. Now that they're stuck in this place, there's a chance that they could come together again and find a solution to their problems. And that hits on the character traits that Dr. Yedlin shares. As a provider, as a doctor, always wanting to fix things. And Enemy Lines does bring that up quite a bit in the episode, and it's good to see that they're probably going to use that those traits for his character as part of the overall plot this season. It's a pretty intense opening. It doesn't skimp on any of the violence that we're used to seeing. Season 1 it moved through its plot very quickly because it had the 10 episodes and it knew where it was heading. Season 2 doesn't have that as part of its overall plot element, so it's hard to say where this is heading and if it's going to move as quickly and swiftly as the first season did. But I am pleasantly surprised by what we've seen so far in Enemy Lines. I think that this has the makings of another good season. And Wayward Pines itself was a pretty surprising success in its first season, so why can't the second season be the same? Cheers to that. I'll be checking in with Wayward Pines periodically. I'm reviewing it for another site, like I said before, so I'll be catching it each week, and so I'm sure that I'll be back again with another review, maybe a mid-season review and then a finale review, just to let you know how everything's going. Let me know what you thought about the first episode of this second season of Wayward Pines in the comments section, and please, if you would do me the favor of subscribing to me. You did it right. Thanks. It's much appreciated. And thanks for watching.